session. We are happy it is to be here right now. Imagine
We landed on the Earth on a desert island in the year 2100. We're standing on the beach of tiny little island. Rock music is playing in the background. You're sitting on your coconut through plastic straw.
Welcome at Zuhause mit, another series here within home delivery here at the Ars Electronica Center in our PEP Lab studio, done by the PEP Lab and made out of cardboard, local artist group that I also would like to highlight today. But today we have also a very special guest with us, who is Fabricio Lamoncha. Hello, Fabricio.
Hello, Manuela.
Nice that you are with us today.
Thank you.
Fabricio is from Spain. This is why today we will talk in English again. And but Fabricio is, I think, since 10 years. I think you celebrate 10 years in Linz already this year, right?
Even more. I mean, not all in a row, but I arrived to Linz, I think, in late 2008. So yeah.
Okay, so even more than 10 years. Wow. Yeah. So welcome at our Pub Lab. Welcome at Zuhause mit, at home with. And Fabricio, we are diving a little bit into your work, what you're doing. You're an artist, you're a researcher, you are assistant professor, you work at Interface Cultures department at the Art University. Mm-hmm. You participated in some Ars Electronica festivals already as an artist, as a curator. You got awarded also by other institutions, especially in the field of media art, VIDA. For example, competition from Telefónica in Spain. You're a Spanish artist and you have done a wonderful work that we will have a look then also afterwards. And you are also here because you will open an exhibition quite soon on April the 22nd here at the Ars Electronica Center, where you just actually did a workshop, and we will also focus on this. But yeah, you brought us this wonderful video where we sneaked in a little bit in the beginning. Fabricio, what did we see and hear here in this video?
Well, it's hard to explain what's in the video. I think that hopefully the audience was able to experience by itself. It's always hard to explain what an artwork is about. It's more about experiencing it by yourself. It's about feeling it rather than explaining it with words. But I mean, I can tell you that this video is the result of a collaboration that I established with Matthias Schäfer and with Sofia Braga. So this is the result of a workshop that we did at Ambro Festival. It's a festival that is happening in Linz, also curated by Davide Bevilacqua. And as the result of this workshop that we did also together with Sofia and Matthias, we were asked to do a video because this workshop happened last year. Unfortunately, due to the COVID, it happened online. So we were asked to do a video that represents what the workshop was about, and we were doing this workshop on ASMR methods and linked to artistic research. And
what is ASMR?
ASMR. ASMR means.
Well, actually, I checked it on Wikipedia. Yeah, autonomous sensory
meridian response, right? So it's basically this. They say about this tingly feeling that you get like in the back of your head when you experience some smooth voices or like amplified sounds. It creates this feeling, like for example when they whisper in your ear, you know. So what is this feeling about and this experience? So the idea behind using ASMR, which is internet phenomena linked to YouTube. There are people specialized in this kind of in developing this kind of videos for the audience. They use these stereo microphones to record their whispering voices, and also how they interact with other objects. I don't know, like they do like a lot of tapping, or they interact with like different objects that they have around home. So they try to create like amplify this relationship with these objects. Eventually, also it's very much related to the relationship with food, and so there is a lot of videos of people eating food and so on. But for us, in order to link it to what we wanted to do, which was to link it to, especially to the world of like narrative and storytelling through these more like aesthetic experiences rather than to traditional storytelling. And we found that there was eventually like a very funny framework to create new landscapes where people could experience and think about very eventually really critical subjects, like for example climate change or ecological troubles.
By having these emotional experiences.
Exactly. This was in the framework of this AMRO festival, which is usually in the end a lot panels, a lot lectures, and there is also like kind of like an aura of seriousness within this, because they are touching like serious topics. So we propose this workshop as almost like as a place where people could come together again, and forget a little bit about the topics, and the seriousness of the festival, relax, and experiment a little bit. And eventually, rather than using words and concepts, using more like sensations, experiment, have a new opportunity to look at the same topics that we were dealing about during the festival within different frameworks, which is like the world of aesthetics and sensations. Sensations eventually differ from concepts because they are concepts as kind of like rigid structures and boxes, of ideas, and sensations eventually become like more like fluid organisms, so it's easier to.
I think we will talk about these ways of how to interact also then later within your project, because they have a lot to do also with the other projects that we want to see. Okay. So thank you very much for the introduction. I want to highlight here also the website from Fabricio Lamoncha. You can find then also the full video there in 10 minutes length on the website, and I actually would like to invite you to have a look on the video in the whole length, because the whole this feeling, or this experience you can only have when you have the whole video, of course. But for us, it was not possible to play it already the whole 10 minutes in the beginning. But let us come a little bit back to how everything actually started, how you came to Linz, and how actually everything started also for you as an artist. Because you told me, we met just recently, and you told me that when you so you were born in 1983 in Valencia, and your childhood and your artistic career started especially in a very interesting time in Spain in the 80s. How...
My artistic career.
Yeah, you mentioned that you started to draw, you started to paint, you found your creativity in this time.
Yes.
How can we imagine being childhood in the 80s in Valencia, like your personal?
Well, my childhood, I guess, is like a very normal childhood. I don't know. I mean, of course, like I was born in Valencia. I lived in Valencia and also in Alicante. I spent also part of my childhood in Alicante, and it was I mean, for me, it was a very interesting moment. I guess like all kids are more or less like similar, but of course like the experiences that you live when you are a kid somehow frame the person that you become, no? Eventually you live different experience, but yeah, I could imagine that the experience that I lived when I was a kid marked me a lot. So around home there was always like a lot of like different people passing by, a lot of some artists, some musicians, some painters. So for me it was like very interesting to look at all these people and as individual, always like as different people's different ways of experiencing life and living their life, but always like very honest. There was some kind of like strange vitality, I guess, in the 80s in Spain. My mother is from Madrid, so also in Madrid was this very special time also after like with the beginning of the democratic times in Spain, and also in Valencia as well with La Ruta del Bacalao and so on. Maybe that's a little bit later, late 80s, beginning of the 90s, but I saw a lot of life, a lot of joy, huge vitality, and a lot of other things that maybe they are not so politically correct to mention right now. But indeed, like a very strange vitality and many different ways to live life, not really like focusing like on a specific path, but yeah. So that was really inspiring for me. And I don't know, I come from a very kind of like working class family somehow, and my mother, she always tried to encourage me to be creative, because eventually she was not allowed herself to be creative when she was a kid. So she put a lot of energy into me and into my education, and always tried to inspire me. And I always had, I was lucky also, like everybody that was coming around my home, adults, you know, I was always allowed into the conversation. I remember myself falling asleep in the sofa while everybody around was just like drinking whiskey and smoking cigarettes, and just waking up in the morning in my own bed with the pajama on. I don't know, it's, I really like this idea of also. So it was very nice. And then of course, like as a kid, I really liked to draw and paint, and then of course there is this kind of like interesting thing that happens that eventually brings you courage to become an artist in the future, which was never my idea, but it's the fact that I was always kind of like gifted for drawing a little bit at school, you know. So all my colleagues around, they always wanted my drawings, you know, and so I had already this kind of like nice courage already from my childhood times, where everybody thought about Fabricio as the guy that knows how to draw or something like that. But then it's a completely different story than becoming an artist, right?
So this time of the 80s, where somehow modernism started in Spain, right? So after the Franco dictatorship, very capitalistic dictatorship that happened, everything was more open and flexible, and crazy time, yeah, with a lot of strange things are also happening. But this was freeing yourself somehow to start to experiment. And you went to the Lycée Français, so your mother actually tried to bring you into this private school, and then you went also to an architectural high school, and you left then actually quite soon Spain, because you went also to Paris and to the US in order to come back after 1.5 years to Spain and to study, and really to studying fine arts, which has never been actually your wish before, right? How important do you see this, that young students after their college, after their high school, are actually somehow trying to find themselves abroad in order to know what they are doing? Is this something that you could, that you were also suggesting to others, especially also to your students as assistant professor? How was your experience with this?
Definitely, I think it's a very big problem for kids and students. Like at least in Spain, I could imagine here as well. You are forced to take a path. And for example, I took this path that I went to a high school that was focused on science, because eventually I wanted to study architecture because I thought it was something that kind of like represents my way of looking into the world. And I always loved architecture. So it's kind of like a mix, you know.
I mean, Valencia and architecture.
Arts and engineering somehow. Yeah, of course. And when I was a kid, I was fascinated by Gaudí and things like that, you know, that then eventually you start developing yourself.
And what's the name of the architect doing these very futuristic buildings?
Calatrava. Santiago Calatrava.
Santiago Calatrava.
Yes. You visited Valencia, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a very, very interesting city.
But architecture is something that is very prominent for the city, right? So
the architecture of Santiago Calatrava.
No, in general. I mean, the focus on architecture in Valencia is something that is, of course, also for you as a.
It's a very doors out city. It's a very extrovert city. So aesthetics are fundamental for somebody from Valencia and for people in Valencia. They love to be surrounded by beautiful things.
But you left the idea of studying architecture and came into fine arts.
Yes, I didn't align with the way architecture was taught in Spain. Eventually, if I would have known about Linz and how it's taught here, for example, in the Kunstuniversität, which it has a much more like project or like design approach, I would have been much more triggered by it. I thought it would be that way, but it became a very tedious process, especially in the first years, I think, when there is this criba and they try to get rid of most of the people, I guess. Maybe if I would have given a chance, I would have finished it. But I thought I may try other things, other countries, and other ways of thinking about education and in relation to architecture. So since I'm kind of like native speaker in French, I thought I'll try to go to France. I go to Paris, I start working there, and at the same time I start looking into what are the possibilities to study in France. Then I realized that it was more or less the same, and then I moved to the United States. I did there a practicum, it's called like an internship for a construction company, architecture studio as well. They build like beautiful houses just to try to get some like tacit knowledge about construction and how houses are done. So they were building these magnificent houses like the ones that you see on the Hollywood movies. So I got a lot of experience about working with wood and working in construction. And this knowledge was always very valuable for me. So then when I came back to Spain and I studied fine arts, then I also did a master on stage design, which I thought it was kind of like a mix between arts and architecture in a way, you know, more focusing project and art direction in relation to this. And there I could apply always like all this knowledge. So every experience that I had in life, even if it looks that it was disconnected, it was following the path that I thought it was the right one. And it was really following my true interest of what I wanted to learn. And therefore, I think it was always true. And I am very happy about what it's my life and my experiences and my curriculum has become. Because it's unique in the end. Because it's mine. I didn't follow one, but I built it myself.
You studied fine arts, and then you actually came with an Erasmus stipendium already to Linz. And in the beginning, you did fine arts at the Art University here with Ursula Hübner, so Malerei und Grafik, paintings and graphics. Yeah. And then you, so for me the question is, I mean, being in Valencia doing fine arts, why you choose doing an Erasmus in Linz? I mean, the class from Ursula Hübner is great, yeah. I just see
Linz.
Linz is also great, but from a perspective from Valencia, I don't know, you don't come from the media art world, or you don't come from a world where you say, okay, I have to go to Linz. So it was for me quite interesting that you selected Linz as a place to to work and to finish your back?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I already had an eye on interface cultures department, but since it was a master program, I was not really allowed to register directly into interface cultures. Linz is very famous because of Ars Electronica, and I already knew about it. Basically, that was the only thing I knew about Linz when they offered to go on an Erasmus, and so yeah, I had to choose a department to get into, and I chose Malera and Graphic because it was the easiest way to transfer these credits to my university in Spain. But when I came here, I was doing, I think, like most of the credits in interface cultures.
Okay.
Because back then, now there is this master program in Valencia that is very much related to interface cultures, but back then, as far as I know, this master didn't exist. So I was really interested in the tools and the things that were taught at interface cultures. That's why I initially came to Linz. And I know that usually like people are coming.
And then you stayed?
Yeah, and then I stayed. I mean, normally the people are coming to Spain for an Erasmus.
Yeah.
That sounds like the logical
Exactly.
way, not the other way around. Like,
Exactly.
why? But yeah, I guess it was the opposite reasons why usually people come to Spain as an Erasmus.
Yeah. And it's often like this, that people who are then coming really are also staying longer. So at least this is my personal impression. And you are another example. You did your master at interface culture with a wonderful project that I would like to see and to highlight also here. And I would like to show now also the video that you brought us. The Poo Printer was your master project, and it was actually a very famous project, not only at Ars Electronica at that time. It got a prize at the Vida. You had feedback, or you actually had a reportage on Wired magazine, on We Make Money Not Art blog. El País also mentioned your project and was reporting about it. Can you tell us what we just saw here? What is the Poo Printer?
Yeah, it's funny. All of a sudden, this little project, I think, of course, like through this Vida Prize on creative production.
Art and Artificial Life?
Yes. It got a lot of media attention. So funny, and then things start like becoming kind of like viral online. It's so funny. One publication starts talking about something, the other ones, they have their eye on that, and pop.
And
it
what
gets
is
spread, and you get a lot of coverage. The Poo Printer, actually, it was initially thought as a prototype for an open, like a public space installation. What is the Poo Printer? I mean, literally, it is a cage or a printer that takes the shape of a cage and uses the finches, feces, droplets, to print letters on paper. So there are perches, which are these branches usually used for the birds to perch and to then move around. I transformed the perches into kind of like feeding containers with the shape of these letters. And so the bird was forced to move around the perches, and while they are moving, they are at the same time they are pooping. So after 1 day or two, depending on the surface of the letter, one letter would appear on the paper. So I developed the whole alphabet, and this was printed on a large roll of paper. So after 1 day, you can change the letter, move the paper, the second letter would appear. So it's a very slow printer. That is what literally the Poo Printer
Poo
is about.
Printer is.
Yeah. At the same time, of course, it explores the relationship with the finches, and it uses the finches kind of like as a metaphor to explore social engineering phenomena. So it's kind of like just like a little metaphor.
And I mean, your relation to artificial life, to nature, to the combination, let's say, about the artificial reality and nature and these ecological bioart approaches is something that you're very much in. You also mentioned that you there is something that the biological garden in Linz has in common with the biological garden in Los Angeles, which is a project that you also brought.
Yeah, I mean, my relationship with that, with bioart, at least it came from a sense of responsibility that I developed through this project. So this kind of is the project that initiated everything. Eventually, when you are establishing a relationship with other species, especially in this case, which it looks as such a domination, you know, it doesn't look like there is a symbiotic relationship with the species because they are engaged. I don't know, like you start developing some kind of like sense of responsibility for what you are doing, you know, because you have other lives, you know, in your hands, and eventually you think that, okay, maybe I need to develop my thought or bring sense into this. And eventually I think that this is something that other people may be interested. So I thought like, okay, this sounds like a nice, interesting path for me to make sense into a lot of topics that I find quite critical, especially in this idea of like relationship, how we relate to other species, whatever you are defining as a species. And
what was the name of the project that you did in Linz in the Botanical Garden and in Los Angeles in the Botanical Garden?
Is within the framework of a project, a platform that is called Offline Gallery. The project is called BOT. It shows the result of workshops that I do at the Kunstuniversität Linz with the students from Interface Sculptors. And in this case, it was a project that we developed in the Botanical Garden of Linz, where each student participates with his own proposal to a specific topic. Then we put it together into a beautiful static website that, for example, in the case of this project, it was the website was done by Sofia Braga, and then we exhibit this project in a static website. In offline network created by Raspberry Pi and an antenna and a battery pack. So this we put inside of this funny pack that you can see on the picture, and then we stripe it around the tree. So we are creating an exhibition space in a public space, or actually wherever you want, you know. So the idea behind this project is not taking the projects that are done in the botanical garden or anywhere else and bring them artificially into a gallery space, into a white cube, but having the possibility to that the audience experience this project within the same space where the projects are created. You know, so by using your own smartphone, you can connect to the local network just in a hotspot, like you do at go to the airport or to McDonald's to check your emails or when you are traveling. So it creates this sense of home as well, somehow, no? Like you can like automatically connect to internet in a place where usually maybe there is no Wi-Fi. And then you can experience the projects directly there. So you can always compare what you have in front of your face, you know, your smartphone, what you have behind, because the projects are the result of this. So it's kind of like a unique perspective on what you are seeing. So you see things from your unique perspective, and then the students, they see things from their unique perspective, and you are confronted with this comparison by the use of your smartphone. So that's the idea behind. Then, of course, the idea the idea was to bring this project to other venues in order to find also like new connections. So the idea was to take this project and bring it to other botanical gardens around the world. I had the possibility of spending the summers in UCLA, working at the Nano Labs summer camps in UCLA with Victoria Vesna at the CNSI, at the Center for Nano Systems Institute. And so I had the possibility to exhibit also at the Botanical Garden of UCLA. So since, yes, as this idea of like, bringing a seed into the botanical garden, an exchange and seed exchange that usually are happening in botanical gardens, but represented in an aesthetic project.
And this art science collaborations where you're very much in, and I think also your PhD is now working into this direction, speaking about methodologies that are maybe more related to scientists or methodologies that are more related or coming from the arts, and how they relate to each other, how they can be compared, how they can be intertwined and so on, is something that you research on. And you also recently did a workshop with Fraunhofer Institute and
ENAS,
with ENAS
in Chemnitz, yes.
And in Chemnitz there is then also the
Klub Solitaer.
Klub Solitaer.
The main organizers.
This was a workshop that took place online because of our pandemic reality, but the results and the prototypes will be shown here in the Ars Electronica Center soon. Can you let us know what we can expect, how the workshop was, and what it will be presented in the foyer of the Ars Electronica Center?
Yes. We are still looking into this. The workshop happened. It was a 1-week workshop, pretty intense, where participants from different fields came and they brought their view or their expectations on arts and science collaboration. Of course, art is a very, very broad field, and science the same. So when we're talking about science, we can talk about relationship with technology, relationship with biology, lab. We focus in the relationship between artists and laboratories and the kind of like collaboration that is usually established there. So yeah, there was a big conversation, there was some discussions, we did some research, we had some little experiments done with the participants. Then we had the opportunity to have like a tour over the ENAS laboratories. It was actually interesting because like the opportunity of having this workshop online gave us the opportunity to bring, we had to go in with cameras. And since we had to come in with cameras, we could go places where usually people that they don't belong to the labs are not allowed. Therefore, we cannot show right now the documentation of the process because we are still editing, and of course we still have to get their approval to show these images because of course there may be some contract regulations, and eventually some parts of this thing maybe we are not allowed to show. Hopefully yes,
we will see it.
We will see it.
I hope the collaboration with Fraunhofer Institute für elektronische Nanosysteme, ENAS, and Klub Solitaer will give the confirmation that we can show everything here in the Ars Electronica Center, and also make it public then via our channels that we have. And also the contribution to your PhD, maybe quickly. Can you let us know what what your main topic of your PhD is about in the moment, and how this is feeding, the workshop is feeding also your thesis?
Well, my PhD starts somehow where I left my master. So it started initially exploring this idea of interspecies collaboration. So I was very interested in developing thinking about what are the ethical agendas and methods that in which we can approach interspecies collaborations from an artistic research perspective, so through artistic research methodologies. Therefore, there is like common names but different definitions for things, you know. So looking into these protocols, regulations that are already quite well established in the scientific research, like for example in the use of laboratory animals in laboratories. Those protocols, they are already quite established. The ethical agendas, they are already quite established. My idea was to make kind of like a comparative study between the two, looking into the difference and see where, you know, we can benefit from
we as
from
artists.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the interesting thing of a collaboration, whether you are collaborating with a different species or with a different discipline. It's the fact that eventually we don't need to have the same agendas. Or my interests and goals, if I have, may differ from the interests and agendas of the partner institution, like in this case ENAS, but we still can gain some knowledge from each other. So that was kind of the point and the whole idea behind this whole notion of collaboration.
Thank you very much, Fabricio. Like always, we have a last question, like what does home or at home, zu Hause, what does home means for you?
Home. How much time do I have to answer this question?
10 seconds.
It's a very complex and problematic question to answer, especially for a Spanish person, and especially for a Spanish person that lives in Austria. But I would say that home is everywhere I feel like I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm in the moment, I would say. No, so looking at the sea, in front of my computer, writing a paper, together with friends, enjoying a meal, anywhere where I have the feeling that I don't want to be anywhere else, and I'm enjoying the moment. That's where I feel home. So hopefully there is no such a representation of home, but home is like in your heart or wherever you feel happy.
Thank you very much. And I have to remind you that you also brought a souvenir for us.
Ah, yes. I saw that everybody.
Which is super. I mean, we already have the collection here and also on the other side. And also here from a Spanish colleague at the university,
Yes,
Enrique Tomás.
So, I thought you may need also a little bit of decoration. So I brought you a set of stickers. So one is a project also that I did with Sofia Braga, that is called Marina Pantone.
Marina Abramovic Pantone.
Yeah, it's a set of cards where we are changing the robe of Marina Abramovic to see which one fits better her skin tone.
Okay.
Then and
does it fit my skin tone? The Marina Abramovic green.
Then one sticker from Titus, which is a Linz celebrity. This is an artwork.
Okay.
Then I brought you stickers from Clusterdag, some French, I guess you know them. You can stick around.
Cool.
Oh, this is a sticker from Interface Sculptors from our last exhibition.
This was the last exhibition during Ars Electronica Festival.
State of Intimacy.
State of Intimacy. Very clearly to read.
Then another sticker from the internet shop, some friends from Hamburg.
And you love collecting stickers.
Yes, and stick them around. I think
stick them around.
Stick them around here, maybe in the flower pots.
Yeah,
I like to stick them in the flower pots.
We have everything is from cardboard, so
and,
it's easy to stick.
Another artwork from Andy Garcia, $100. There is also an online exhibition running right now.
Andy Garcia. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Manuela.
Super. that you took the chance, or actually that you followed our invitation to be here. We are very much looking forward also to the exhibition that is starting, and maybe we have another chance in presenting also your PhD project that you are still currently working on, and that we actually want to wish you luck and also a lot of power for finishing it, because you're actually more or less in the very end to finish it.
Maybe next time when we are talking about the collaboration with ENAS, we can also do an interview with Matthias Schäfer, because he is my partner and we did the workshop together.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much also for this hint. So maybe then Matthias can also come together with you, and we will have another intro, a sneak intro into your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much for joining us again, and looking forward in meeting you next time again. Also wir freuen uns wieder, Sie das nächste Mal wieder bei Zuhause mit begrüßen zu dürfen. Bis bald. Ciao.